Coverage of the NCAA Men's Basketball Tournament is sponsored by Fiat, Quicken Loans, and by State Farm.
Back in snowy Kansas City, here are the starting lineups. LaSalle with its 4-guard alignment, and the one big 6'8" Jarrell Wright, who had an extraordinary game Friday night against Kansas State. Ramon Galloway got off to the good start the other night, but was contained in the second half. For Ole Miss against Wisconsin on Friday night, solid games for the front court players, Murphy Holloway and Reginald Buckner, and you will be seeing much of number 22, Marshall Henderson, who got off to that 1-for-13 start and then came on strong. The Rebels head coach, the colorful Andy Kennedy, who's made his first trip to the NCAA tournament. The head coach of LaSalle, John Giannini, leading the Explorers in his 9th season as head coach of LaSalle. And LaSalle is one win away from an improbable run to the Sweet 16.
They've been impressive so far, Mark, playing this 4-guard lineup with one big. So what they do is they spread you out, they try to beat you off the dribble, and when you're forced to rotate off of penetration, they'll swing the ball from side to side and get an open look. So you've got to be able to guard against penetration. Guarding one-on-one on the ball, really key here for Ole Miss.
The officiating crew, the lead is Mike Eads, working with David Hall and Tim Clockerty. Earlier today was Kansas coming from behind after North Carolina led by as many as 11. The Jayhawks defeating the Tar Heels 70-58, so they advance, and they'll move on to Arlington to face the University of Michigan. Ole Miss out of Oxford, Mississippi, and the Southeastern Conference. They've won 6 straight, 8 of their last 9. LaSalle from the Atlantic 10, and boy, they've done so well in the tournament. LaSalle 23-9, 11-5 in the tournament. They have won 9. I should say 11-5 in the Atlantic 10, and they have won 9 of the last 12 games. LaSalle in the dark uniforms controlling as Mills gets it down low, right. And Wright goes right at it.
Just picking right up where he left off the other night. Wright is basically the only scorer in the paint for LaSalle, so they play off of him, and they're going to run all kinds of action with him and pick and roll to try to get him on rolls into the lane.
LaSalle starting with DJ Peterson on Marshall Henderson. This is Nick Williams, senior from Mobile, Alabama.
With all the focus on Marshall Henderson, you forget Ole Miss really executes well. They average only 11 turnovers a game as Duran gets fouled going to the basket. Here's Wright, who has been so good in this tournament. You see Ole Miss playing him one-on-one. Buckner guarding him, one of the best defensive players in the SEC, a decorated shot blocker. But Wright just using that leverage, going right up over the top of him.
And what a game the other night. 6 for 6 from the field, 9 of 10 at the line, 21 points, 8 rebounds, and did much of the scoring for the Explorers down the stretch.
And do you see the numbers for Tyreek Durham? He and Galloway are the 2 best players on this team. But to this point in the tournament, Duran is just 2 for 13 from the floor. So that was important to get him a couple of free throws here early, try to get him off to a good start.
Henderson. Holloway is fouled.
And this is the problem for LaSalle. Wright picks up his first foul already. They're going to have to spend so much time paying attention to Henderson on those jump shots that there's going to be plenty of opportunities for offensive rebounds. And with that big, strong front line, look at Holloway just wedge himself in there. And this is something to watch all night for LaSalle. They've got to somehow hold their own on the glass.
Holloway just a 54% foul shoot. A strong game the other night against Wisconsin. 10 points, 9 rebounds, plus a big steal and score right at the end. The interest here is how LaSalle will defend on Marshall Henderson. They opened up with D.J. Peterson.
LaSalle normally just switches everything in a man-to-man, so you'll see a lot of different people ending up on Henderson.
White triple team gets it out to Durham. Ramon Galloway. They double up immediately on the right. Nice pass, Mills with the tap, but Peterson not able to hit, and it's knocked out of bounds.
Well, we talked about how difficult it is to guard LaSalle because of their speed and penetration. Ole Miss is just switching everything. Even Holloway and Buckner are switching on all ball screens. And so we're having both sides really just multiple defenders, a lot of cross matches. It's going to be interesting to see who can really make their way here defensively and find some footing.
Ball back to the Rebels. A momentous night for Ole Miss on Friday. Their first tournament win since back in 2001. They advanced to the Sweet 16 that year with wins over Iona and Notre Dame. Here is Henderson for three. Holloway with the follow.
Look how easy that is. LaSalle coming on a double team of Buckner, and when you double, you've got to make rotations and box outs on the weak side. And there was just nobody there, just no size whatsoever for LaSalle against Holloway on the boards.
Andy Kennedy telling us the other day that Henderson, he feels, gets, Galloway able to sweep right down the lane. That Henderson is over anxious at the start, usually does not get off well, and that was certainly the case with that 1 for 13, and then hit that big three and came on, and Ole Miss was able to put the game away.
One of the reasons Ole Miss has trailed in its last 4 games, all wins, but they've trailed in the second half of each one.
Henderson rims out, so he's missed his first 3.
He's right on pace.
Nice play, Mills, but it would not drop. Henderson gives it up. Kofi Holloway, who's all left, and did it very effectively.
But that's what Andy Kennedy has been hoping for from Henderson. Just the threat of him shooting out there opened up that lane, and Henderson with a beautiful pass.
6 points for Holloway. Henderson, then by Galloway. Off the shoulder fake, and he will head to the line.
Now watch this, the feed from Henderson. All the attention on the shooting guard leads to that space, and Holloway, left-handed, very strong going in that direction, and without any rim protection for LaSalle. I mean, that's just a major problem in this game.
Foul committed by Tyreek Duran. Reginald Buckner, 55% free throw shooter. He played well the other night against Wisconsin. 12 rebounds, 5 block shots, 9 points. 12th seed Ole Miss knocking off the 5th seed Wisconsin with a second half rally at 1 point. The flamboyant and controversial Marshall Henderson, 1 for 13 from the field, 0 for 6 from the three-point line, then went on that tear in the second half, scored 17 of his 19. Many of his misses, though, were rimming out, but the guy who has the green light to just keep firing away. Ended up 6 for 21.
Or as LeBron James said on Twitter, the greenest of green lights.
Right.
You know what's amazing with Henderson, Marvin? You don't really see it on tape, but you have to feel it in the building. When he makes a shot, it gives his team a jolt of energy and confidence and emotion. I thought that one three-pointer that he made to start that surge in the second half against Wisconsin completely changed the emotion of the game.
There's Mills from straight away a 3. Ole Miss with the ball and a 3-point lead. Foul is called away from the ball as a timeout is taken. Foul on Mills. Ole Miss with a 9-6 lead.
Craig Gumbel in New York with an All-State Good Hands update over on TNT in Austin. Minnesota had moved to within 7 of Florida, but the Gators on a run again. Mike Rosario, 3 of his game-high 25. Florida leads at 71-56, under 3 minutes remaining, Marv.
All right, great. Let's take a look at our tournament summary. Big Ten, 10 up and 1 down. 4 teams in the Sweet 16. Ohio State advances to its 4th straight Sweet 16, knocking off the Cyclones of Iowa State. And the Atlantic 10 starting out on fire. And things have turned. Actually, they have 5 teams that made the tournament, including LaSalle, St. Louis, Temple, VCU, and Butler.
That St. Louis-Oregon game was surprising last night. St. Louis is such a good team all year. We're going to see a foul here, offensive foul on Holloway. But a lot of people felt like St. Louis was going to go deep. But Oregon, again, proving it was way underseeded at number 12.
Rohan Brown has come on for LaSalle. Here's a trap.
We saw this changing the defenses against Wisconsin. Galloway lines up the 3 and knocks it down. But Ole Miss likes to mix up its defenses, add some full court pressure, try to keep you off balance offensively.
Summers at the point, made his return to the lineup last game after sitting out a couple of games with a concussion, and was last touched by the Rebels.
Here's the long jumper against that 2-3 zone from Galloway. And you don't want to get him going. He has been terrific. A huge first half the other night before quieting down. Of course, the entire team only made 3 shots in the second half. They hung on for dear life against Kansas State.
Galloway ended up 6 of 15 after the good start. And our Tyrone Garland, who was also very quiet the other night, has checked in for the first time. Nice move by Garland. Tyrone Garland, a junior from Philly, a transfer out of Virginia Tech, has had some big games against Boise State in the first 4, 9 of 11, 22 points.
Remember Bruce Weber at halftime the other day, Marvin? There's a steal from LaSalle. Bruce Weber talking to Craig Sager said, you have to take away the layups. It's not the 3-pointers, it's the penetration and the shots at the hoop. That's got to be the focus here for Ole Miss.
Galloway, who averages 17 points a game, leads LaSalle in scoring, 3rd in the Atlantic 10, and shoots 40% from downtown. How about 14 threes by the Shockers, who shocked, including 7 straight from downtown late in the game to reach the round of 16 for the first time since 2006.
Looked like Gonzaga had gotten control of that game after a great surge, but man, Wichita State was caught fire and Sent the #1 seed home early.
Well, you can watch live games on your computer, iPhone, iPad, and select Android devices with NCAA March Madness Live. Watch now at ncaa.com/March Madness or download the app. Ole Miss in control. They're down by 3. 7 minutes gone by in the first half. Williams on the drive, fires one up. Tip was missed and knocked out of bounds. Last touch by Murphy Holloway.
But I like the idea. If you can penetrate against this defense, just put it up on the glass. You have such a huge advantage in the paint and on the boards. It almost becomes an assist if you could just get the shot up to the rim.
Well, Steve, the one big man is Jarrell Wright. They did have Steve Zach, who goes 6'11", but he's been sidelined. Set out the entire Atlanta 10 tournament. Started the first 4 games and then came off the bench. Here's the putback attempt by Williams, but he suffered a foot injury in early March and has not been available.
They missed him the other night against Kansas State as Garland misses on the jump shot. And I think they'll miss Zach even more with this matchup with Buckner and Holloway. Zach, an energy guy, somebody who can bang with the big fellas and use up those 5 fouls and help Jarrell Wright stay out of foul trouble.
Marshall Henderson getting set to return. There's the steal. Garland lays it home.
You got to be so careful against this team with the ball. They're just quicker and faster than they look, and they'll get into the passing lanes and cause havoc, and they switch everything man-to-man, so they're constantly in the passing lane just by the nature of their defense.
And LaSalle with a couple of impressive victories over Butler and VCU. That was within a 4-day stretch. They were blown out by St. Louis. Ball's deflected out. Will be maintained by Ole Miss. The first a timeout.
And here's the example of that speed for LaSalle, playing havoc on this Ole Miss offense, and the Explorers off to the 5-point lead.
I think that there's 100 pretty good teams in the country. Maybe you don't have the great teams with Jordan Worthy and Perkins or Patrick Ewing and Ralph Sampson going head-to-head anymore, but there's certainly more good players and more good teams than ever, a lot of quality teams. So I don't think the seeding makes that big a difference.
Totally agree with that. The teams are so evenly matched. What really matters is matchups, not what number you are. You can sort of fall into a good matchup just based on how the other team plays, or you might fall into one based on an upset. And so I think John Giannini is absolutely right, and that's why we're seeing these two teams right here playing for a shot at the Sweet 16.
Here's Henderson back in, goes to the fade and knocks it down. He missed his previous 3 shots. All were from downtown. This a 2-pointer. And let's see how this affects the Rebels. Galloway, Garland. Galloway with a quick first step draws the foul. Buckner hesitated and then went at him.
Watch Henderson coming off that screen. The eyes. Andy Kennedy says it's all in the eyes for Marshall Henderson. By the way, they have been like a comedy act this week on the podium at the press conferences.
And I've enjoyed it. Yes. Be the first to know the latest news at all your teams with Bleacher Report's Team Stream app. Stay one step ahead. Check out Team Stream on your iPhone, iPad, or Android device. Marshall Henderson at Bell High School in Hurst, Texas, played for his dad, Willie Henderson, averaged 25 a game, was district MVP, all county. Ole Miss his 4th college due to a number of circumstances, including forging checks, which put him on probation, which he violated, into jail for about a month.
Well, he had to find the right program.
Yes.
And I think he found a kindred spirit in Andy Kennedy, who there's a method to Kennedy's madness with Henderson. He understands better than anyone just the energy and the emotion that comes with Henderson, and it helps his team. But right now, they're in a little bit of trouble. Buckner just picked up his 2nd foul. Perez comes on. Anthony Anthony Perez, a freshman, number 13, trying to guard Duran, and you see they're having all kinds of trouble guarding the penetration of LaSalle.
Foul is called on Perez. For more on Marshall Henderson, here's Craig.
Well, Marv, you're right. You would think that somewhere along the line, maybe somebody tried to discipline Marshall Henderson more, and his high school coach would be the right guy, which was his father. But I talked to him. He says, nope, he's been like this forever. He was like that in high school. In fact, when I think about it, he played like this when he was in first grade. It's just in him. That's who he is. Marv.
Well, you know, you look back at last year, talking with Andy Kennedy a year ago, the Rebels, who may have had even more talent than they do this season. They're struggling to score as a result, relegated to their 5th NIT trip in Kennedy's first 6 seasons. And Kennedy believed that Henderson would be the missing ingredient, and he was correct.
Well, you look at the team, they're very solid on the front line with Holloway and Buckner. They've got guys who can stabilize the club in Summers and Williams, Snoop White, but they needed some electricity. They needed some firepower. They needed some personality, and it's been a perfect fit.
Nice feed. Anthony Perez, the 6'9" freshman, lays it home.
And that was interesting, Marv. Henderson went one way. The entire defense went with him and forgot to guard Perez on the backside. So you see the effect of Henderson even when he doesn't score.
Oh, White with the steal. Took it away from Galloway. Here's White. Took this by Perez. And a foul. Jarvis Summers with the attempt, and he will hit to the line.
And let's take a look. Watch Henderson now coming off that screen. And as he reverses field, look at Galloway and Duran. Actually, that's Mills, I believe. Both go with him. So you pay so much attention to him that all of a sudden somebody else frees up. But the switching man-to-man defense for LaSalle relies so heavily on communication. There was a cross up there.
Substitutions. Peterson has come on. Mills takes a seat. The LaSalle lead is 1. Just past the halfway mark of this first set. Durham got the step and kicks it out. DJ Peterson rarely attempts the 3, although he is a good three-point shooter. Henderson, who often attempts the 3, is able to knock it down.
Game's got a little different feel to it. The Mississippi crowd up, even the impartial fans, those partial to Kansas, you can hear a murmur from both sections as well.
That will not count. Offensive foul. Well, Henderson has become so well known nationally that it makes the ball game more intriguing, and there's a pretty large contingent from Oxford, Mississippi on hand.
There is. He's doing his signature land shark or whatever it is.
Oh, it's clear to me. It's a land shark.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But he just lights up the gym, Marv. There's just something about him that is so magnetic. And you talk to his teammates, they love him. And that's the whole key. This would not work unless his teammates really enjoyed having him around.
Nice play by Garland. Goes to the reverse. And then hits on the follow.
Boy, you just can't be so careless when you swing the ball. And Andy Kennedy just furious with Snoop White.
Game is tied at 20. That did not work. Here's Galloway. Garland. Garland on the rebound. Score. LaSalle by 2. Tyrone Garland has been playing well. Just 1 of 8 the other night. Averages 13 points off the bench. He's been a factor here in the first half. Henderson. That was an interesting shot by Holloway.
Yeah.
Good speed there. It counts, and the foul. Tyree Duran on the move. So he'll head to the line.
Pretty good sequence here for LaSalle. They get the putback to start with from Garland, and then they needed to get Duran a basket. He got a couple free throws early. We talked about it. He really hasn't been his normal productive self to this point in the tournament. So the bucket and the foul, that may spark him.
Foul committed by Summers. Duran, a 78% free throw shooter. 7 unanswered points for LaSalle.
This feels a little bit more of like the game before us, Kansas and Carolina, size versus speed. And the first half of that game, Kansas was so out of whack offensively, but as soon as they took care of the ball and started getting it inside with some patience, they took control. I get the same feeling with Ole Miss right now. It just got to be efficient, get the ball inside, and let that size and strength take control of the game.
Well, Williams did get it inside to Holloway, who was pushed. Foul on DJ Peterson. Team foul number 6. Ole Miss with 7. 8 minutes to play in this first half. 25-20 LaSalle. Henderson coming off the screen. Yes, so he's got it going now.
And even the shots that he's missed, Marv, have rattled in and out. He really looks like he's found the range.
He's at 3 of 7 in his 8 points of play, 8 minutes of play. Garland try to extend. Marshall Henderson leads the SEC in scoring this year, averaging 20 points a game. He started 0 for 3. He's hit 3 of his last 4, firing him up, and he's been hitting.
Coverage of the NCAA men's basketball tournament is sponsored by Charles Schwab, Napa, and by Chevrolet.
Back in Kansas City, let's check out the game summary. LaSalle up by 2. They're 9 of 21. Ole Miss is 8 for 20, but Marshall Henderson caught fire. Galloway 10 points, 3 of 4 shooting. Down to 7.5 remaining in this first half. The head coach at Ole Miss, Andy Kennedy, who says, I did some crazy things when I was playing, but Marshall takes it to another level.
Well, Andy liked to shoot when he played.
Henderson is off, and a foul is called. A push off the battle for the rebound. Lopez ends up on the floor.
And they got Perez on that foul. But Marv, we've talked about Kennedy and his love for Henderson. There's the push there. He kind of looks like he just pulled him down. But Kennedy was an 18-point-a-game scorer at UAB, all-conference player, but a guy who started his career at NC State playing for Jim Valvano before transferring, looking for a place where I think he could shoot more, really. And so he was a similar style player to Marshall, always looking to light it up and look to get shots off from all over the court.
Yeah, he was the second all-time leading scorer at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and only 3 seasons after transferring from the Wolfpack.
A lot of times coaches will see the game in from their own eyes, in terms of what they're looking for. And a scorer as a coach might look at Henderson and say, yeah, that's what I need. That's how I look at the game. A big guy might go get a big guy.
Nice move by Nick Williams at the other end. Galloway with a deep 3, kept alive by Brown. Brown trap, kept into the hands of the Explorers. Galloway straight away.
Boy, he's got a nice stroke. The one he missed, Marv, was dead on line, just a touch short. But the offensive board by Rohan Brown was the key in that possession. Great job getting on the glass by Brown.
Nick Williams very active here in the first half, in contrast to what we saw the other night.
Here's Galloway. This is a big part of the LaSalle offense. Spreading the floor. If you can scrum out an offensive rebound, swing the ball to an open shooter. But at the other end, again, no size, no shot blocking for the Explorers. And Ole Miss able to get right into the paint.
Dunn committing the foul, but Williams not able to take advantage of the three-point play. Ramon Galloway has done over 1,000 points in his career at LaSalle with that last bucket. Garland, read by Williams, goes to the crossover. Garland draws the foul. Well, you can upload with Shaquille O'Neal. It's on All New Comedy, where nothing is out of bounds. Thursdays, 10:30 p.m. on True TV.
Well, we got some foul trouble. Marv Buckner with 2, Nick Williams with 2, Summers also a couple, even Perez has 2 fouls. So all this penetration by LaSalle is taking its toll. They're going to have to figure out a way to keep them out of the paint. Ole Miss basically switching everything, but as a result, you get a lot of mismatches, and that's where the fouls are coming.
See those numbers, the 1 of 8 the other night, preceded by the excellent game against Boise State in Dayton, 9 of 11, 22 points for Garland. LaSalle up by 2. He saw that foul coming. It's on Tyreek Duren. Derek Millinghouse, 76% free throw shooter, will go to the line. It's a 1-and-1. Actually fouled in the act, so Millinghouse will have the 2 shots. 5'10" freshman out of Schenectady, New York. See the foul trouble, 2 apiece on Perez, Williams, Buckner, and Summers.
They can survive the perimeter foul trouble because they've got enough bodies there, but Buckner is a major factor in this game. They've got to have him out there to dominate the paint to really expose this LaSalle size problem.
LaSalle 9 wins their last 12 games. Has a pass intended for Jarrell Wright. They collapsed on him. It's knocked out of bounds. Sam Mills returns for Tyreek Duren. LaSalle making the tournament as an at-large team. Wednesday night in Dayton, they defeated Boise State in that first 4 to advance to the second round. Peterson gets it back. Galloway. Another 3 for Ramon Galloway.
And Holloway was all over the shot, more rotating out of that Ole Miss zone. Looked like he almost got a finger on it, but Galloway put so much arc on it. Beautiful stroke.
He is 4 of 6 from beyond the three-point line. Has 16 points off the steal. Intended for Galloway. Oh. Garland. Whoa. Took a step or 2.
Yeah. Well, that was almost a spectacular finish on that lob. Take a look. Garland up hot. Oh, my goodness. Look how high Galloway jumps. Left hand, back of the rim.
Rohan Brown is back for the Explorers. Sneak White coming up short. Galloway tied up by Henderson. The arrow favoring LaSalle.
Andy Kennedy not happy at all. Or the execution just has not been there. That was an off-balance fadeaway jump shot. Again, the advantage is inside. If they execute and move the ball, they can either get the ball into Holloway or they'll have offensive rebounding position on an open shot.
Anthony Perez, the 6'9" freshman from Venezuela, has checked back in. Florida Gulf Coast over on TBS with the lead.
Up 10, wow. 15 seed trying to get to the Sweet 16.
Holloway starts to make his move. A foul is called on LaSalle. That's number 3 on Mills. For LaSalle, it's their 12th appearance in the Big Dance. Their first NCAA tournament since 1992 when they lost to Seton Hall in the opening round. You can celebrate 75 years of March Madness by voting for your all-time players, teams, and moments of the NCAA tournament. Vote now at ncaa.com/March Madness. The other night we talked about the national title won by Tom Golda's Explorers back in 1954. It was 59 years to the day this past Wednesday, and then in 1955 they lost in the finals to Bill Russell and K.C. Jones, Dons of San Francisco. That was right here in Kansas City. Duren now has 7 points.
Another poor defensive possession for Ole Miss. Some miscommunication out of that zone, and now a turnover.
Henderson lost it. Here comes Duren, right back, and a foul. 2 shots coming up for Tyreek Duren. Just under 4 remaining first half.
Craig Gumbel in New York with a tournament update for you. Florida Gulf Coast continues to be a great watch. Sherwood Brown has 15 points, a 15 seed, has never made the Sweet 16, but Florida Gulf Coast in position, 64-52, under 7 to play, Marv.
All right, Greg. Florida waiting in the wings as they defeated the University of Minnesota.
Could that become an interstate rivalry, Mark? The Gators and the, I don't know, what are they? What's Florida Gulf Coast called? We'll have to do some research.
We will have our fact checkers come up with that. The Eagles, I'm told. I always have a lifeline with me. So.
Yeah, that's a good team. You know, they beat Miami early in the season, and so they served notice that they could play with the big boys. And then knocking off Georgetown in that opener. Pretty impressive stuff.
LaSalle is up by 7. 6-0 run for the Explorers, who now have their biggest lead. Good pickup there by Terry Brutus, who just came on. Freshman out of Spring Valley. Galloway watched by Henderson, then switches off.
Boy, nice job by Brutus on the switch, guarding Galloway.
And he fires one. This one is way off. Holloway with the rebound, and Summers gets it ahead.
Boy, almost another careless turnover. They have 8 already. The Rebels do. They average just 11 per game, so they've been very sloppy, and that's what's gotten them into this hole.
Once again, it's Holloway on the drive and draws the foul. Coming up on AT&T at the half, scores and highlights, plus the latest NCAA tournament news and a Naismith watch presented by AT&T, revealing the 4 finalists for the Naismith Trophy. It's all coming up on AT&T at the half. Brown is called on the foul, so here is Holloway, only a 54% free throw shooter. He's hit his first 2. Whoa!
He did that the other night, too. That's a lonely feeling at that foul line when you shoot an air ball. Usually the next one is long. You overcompensate, and you kind of throw it up there off the glass. Let's see how Holloway responds.
Have you ever thrown an air ball in a competitive situation?
I not a free throw, but sure.
I meant free throw.
Yeah,
free throw air ball. So the answer is no.
The answer is no. Plenty of jump shots, but never a free throw.
Back comes Holloway. And Henderson called for the traveling violation. He did not feel Ramon Galloway, who was right there.
They've just been so over anxious, Marvin. And of course, Henderson is always looking for a shot, but Andy Kennedy knows for his team to win this game, they've got to be settled offensively. Just like Kansas had to do in the second half against Carolina. They got to settle down, move the ball, get it inside, and force LaSalle to work.
Henderson looking for the steal. Here is Duren. Henderson met by Duren. and fires.
Boy, how many has he had, Norm, that have been halfway down the basket and popped back out?
Coming up on 2 minutes to play in this first half. That was an unusual looking three by Galloway. It's nearly a two-hander, but he has 19 points in this first half, 5 from three-point line.
And I don't know how the Rebels lost track of him there. He's the guy who's hit all the shots, 5 3-pointers already. You got to anticipate that before he gets the ball.
Rebels wanted a foul.
See this right here? They're in a little bit of a zone. And just a late rotation from Brutus. He didn't recognize that he had Galloway over there, but you got to understand the hot hands. If you're in a zone, you better watch where that hot shooter is at all times and pre-rotate to him before he catches.
So the ball was knocked out of bounds. Last touch by LaSalle. Nice little turn. Jarvis Summers, the sophomore from Jackson, Mississippi, has made it back after sitting out a couple of games with a concussion.
Zone defense, got to keep your eye on Galloway now. The Mississippi bench gesturing all the way over to the other side at Galloway.
Peterson. It's the second three that he's attempted. Hit one the other night. A minute left in the half. Summers going glass.
Summers, an important player for this team. Well, really kind of the leader. He's an old sophomore, as Andy Kennedy calls him, and he's the one who normally settles this team down when things are looking bleak.
LaSalle with a 3-point lead over Ole Miss. NCAA Division I Women's Basketball Championship continues tonight on ESPN2. For more information, go to NCAA.com. 43 seconds to play in the half. 3-point game. Marshall Henderson, a erratic first half, but did hit his shots much earlier than the other night when he went just 1 for 13 at the start. Terrell Wright, he was the story the other day for LaSalle. That's his first field goal.
And the Explorers continue to just pick apart this Ole Miss zone. The problem for the Rebels, when they go man, they can't contain penetration.
Henderson from deep. A long three for Henderson. So overall, as time runs out in this first half, Henderson 11 points. He's hit 4 of 10, 3 of 9 from beyond the 3-point line. But the story of the first half, Ramon Galloway for LaSalle, 5 3-pointers, 19 points in all. Let's go to Craig Sager with LaSalle head coach John Giannini.
Okay, Coach, Ramon Galloway's had a hot hand against that zone. What do you look for in the second half?
More of the same, hopefully. You know, we want to try to spread them on the zone, try to get the ball to the high post area. We're playing fine offensively. They're hard to guard. They're really athletic, and we need to do a better job defensively.
On the defensive end, how do you negate their size and strength?
You know, we're doing a decent job of it. We're fronting. We're doubling. We're doing all we can. We're really fighting them in that low post. We're not making it easy on them.
All right, thanks a lot. Thank you, Marv.
All right, Craig, a reminder over on TBS, Florida Gulf Coast going up against San Diego State. That's the end of the first half here in Kansas. Make it back to the hotel. 2-point game, LaSalle on top. What are you looking for second half?
I think Ole Miss needs to establish that inside game. Reginald Buckner had 2 fouls, only played 7 minutes that whole half. So now he gets a chance to assert himself in this game. They've got to take care of the ball, though, in order to utilize that size advantage over LaSalle.
The winner will advance to go up against the Shockers of Wichita State Thursday in the West Regional Wichita State knocking off the #1 seed Gonzaga yesterday. They hit 14 3-pointers along the way, including 7 straight. Later they get Jarrell Wright able to get loose.
And immediately a mistake defensively from Ole Miss. Andy Kennedy has to be so upset. His team was really sharp on that end of the floor against Wisconsin. Not so tonight.
And Murphy Holloway is turned away by Wright as we take a look at the first half stats presented by Coke Zero. Pretty good shooting by both teams. LaSalle with 5 3-pointers thanks to Ramon Galloway.
You can see the turnovers. That's the difference. 9 of them for Ole Miss. They averaged just 11. They're going to have to secure the ball in order to get it inside.
Summers with 8 points. Here comes Henderson. Met by Galloway. Here's the double on Buckner. Holloway with an in and out.
Better offensive possession though. Working the ball around a little bit. Garland's going to get called for a travel here, just in too much of a rush. Here was the Ole Miss inbounds play. You can see, even though Wright was there, there's no shot blocking. If you can get any kind of momentum and handle the ball cleanly going to the rim, you're going to have a pretty decent look.
So John Geneve starting. Tyrone Garland in the second half. Good job by Wright. And it deflects out. Let's check in with Craig Sager. Craig.
Well, this is the 5th straight game that Ole Miss has either trailed or been tied at intermission. I talked to Andy Kennedy. He said, that's our MO. And he says, it all starts with Marshall Henderson. He had a pretty good first half, 4 for 10. That's good for him. But for some reason, he always shoots better in the second half when he shoots in front of me and I'm yelling at him. And there he goes.
Yep, Henderson knocks him down.
Nice timing, Craig. You know, Mark, when he goes to that side of the floor, he's much more comfortable. If I'm LaSalle, I send him to the other side where he has to run to his left. He loves running to his right into a shot.
5 for 11, 13 points for Henderson. Durham getting to the rim.
Speed and quickness for LaSalle. That's what we've seen throughout this tournament. They compromise your defense constantly with their ability to penetrate.
Explorers up by 2. Henderson, and Durham is on it. Foul by Henderson is a tripping foul.
Here, this is what I'm talking about right here. He runs to his right. This is where he's most comfortable. And then he can just step into his shot, looks back at Andy Kennedy, smiles, getting some encouragement. Kennedy was upset with him, though, on this last one when he missed. Not for the miss, but because he chased the rebound rather than retreated defensively.
We're back in Philadelphia, Steve. There are a lot of proud people as they have been watching what has been taking place with the Explorers of LaSalle. There's kind of a storybook basketball tradition in Philadelphia, so much revolving around the competition within the Big Five, the games at the Palestra, at the Spectrum, and for LaSalle Friday night's win over Kansas State. Their most significant postseason victory since defeating Southern Miss. That was 23 years ago in a first-round matchup of the NCAA tournament.
Such great tradition in Philadelphia basketball-wise. You talk about the Big Five, and so many Hall of Fame coaches have come out of Philadelphia. In fact, John Giannini telling us that the influence for him with this small lineup really came from Phil Martelli at St. Joe's and Jay Wright with Villanova, whose teams have played a similar style.
Nick Williams gets the hop. 8 points for Williams of the Rebels, and the Ole Miss portion of the crowd on their feet.
Well, the last 4 games, Craig Sager talked about it. They've trailed in the second half and come back and really taking control, and you can feel the momentum swinging Ole Miss's way now.
They take over with the turnover. Williams. Handled by Peterson.
Boy, good job by Peterson battling those big guys on the glass.
A long 3 by Ramon Galloway.
How pure is that stroke, Marv? He's 7 for 11 now, 6 for 9 from the three-point line.
for the season, a 40% three-point shooter. Henderson with the pass and an assist for Marshall Henderson as he finds, Reginald Buckner with the field goal. That's Buckner's first score of the game.
Here's the switch. So you've got Buckner now on the smaller Galloway.
Try to split through, then left it for Peterson. John gets it down low. White goes to work. Rebounded by Holloway.
Holloway just so strong in there. Stands his ground. Nice defensive effort.
Holloway goes 6'7", about 240 pounds. Holloway put it up for Buckner. Bad pass. Nice move by Durant. Garland kept alive. Galloway on the drive. Beautiful pass. Won't count. He saw Peterson. It's an offensive foul.
A rare mistake for Ramon Galloway, who has otherwise just been sparkling here tonight. 22 points.
Has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction 3 years in a row. 1, 2, 3 more reasons. Quicken Loans gives you a home loan experience that's engineered to amaze.
At Enterprise Rent a Car, we listen. In fact, there was an Enterprise employee who came up with the idea of picking you up when you need to rent a car.
Listening. Let us show you what that means.
Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
Greg Gumbel in New York with a tournament update for you on TNT in Austin East Regional play. Kenny Kaji down low will get the bucket for Miami. The number 2 seed trying to become the 3rd Florida team to the Sweet 16, leading Illinois 23-18, 6 minutes to play, first half, Marv.
Thank you, Greg. Marquette waits in the wings. And they'll meet in the nation's capital. In this second half, LaSalle has turned it over 4 times. Ole Miss just once. Both teams continue to shoot well. LaSalle is up by a point.
And they just have to continue to battle on the glass, or it feels like Ole Miss is starting to assert itself down low. And a turnover there is good anticipation from Wright.
Nice move by Garland. And he draws the foul.
It's number 3 on Buckner. Big sequence there.
Number 23, Reginald Buckner.
I drove 6 hours through a snowstorm to see the best LaSalle team in 59 years. Fantastic.
Well, he enjoyed what he saw the other night and hoping that it continues here this evening.
That was some game, wasn't it? I mean, the way they came out and exploded in the first half against Kansas State, built that big lead, 17-point lead, and then the second half was just about plain survival. I mean, it was just attrition, and somehow they hung on to pull that one out.
I would think LaSalle had to be fatigued. It's been a busy week. Knocked off Boise State in the first 4 in Dayton Wednesday. They fly out to Kansas City early morning hours, getting at about 3 a.m. on Thursday. Henderson with a little fade. And then Friday night, they pull off the upset, defeating Kansas State. It's a full call on the foul.
And you wonder, Marva, will the fatigue be a factor tonight? Not just because it's their 3rd game in 5 days, but the size and strength of this front line. Although the last couple of possessions, fouls on Buckner and Holloway, so things swinging back in the Explorers' direction.
But in that second half, LaSalle hit just 3 of 18 from the field. Did not have a field goal the last 8 minutes of the game, and were able to hang on. It's another Explorer turnover. So Kansas State took LaSalle out of its comfort zone. K-State even led briefly, but it was Sherrell Wright who came up big, hit pressure free throws down the stretch, led LaSalle 21 points. Went 6 for 6 from the field, 9 of 10 at the line. Garland on the foul. That is his first. LaSalle making their first appearance in the NCAA in 21 years. You have to go back to 1992.
Let's see if they can get the ball to Holloway. Mark Buckner goes back to the bench. Perez is in. But Holloway is so strong down there, but beautiful leader there.
Jarvis Summers. The LaSalle lead is 1. Summers 4 for 6, 10 points. Henderson shooting over to help out on Garland. Duran pops it right back out. Garland too strong on the 3.
Zone defense again for Ole Miss. Andy Kennedy continues to change up his defenses, and it's been effective.
Duran accelerates. Boy, he's fast with the ball.
He is.
Summers. Nice move by Henderson. 3-on-2 for LaSalle. And a foul.
That's what you worry about. Those long jump shots from Henderson often lead to long rebounds. And if LaSalle can corral the ball, they're off to the races.
Snoop White on the foul. True TV cracks the lock on an all-new episode of Storage Hunters. That's Tuesday, 9:30 p.m. on True TV. Tyrone Garland, junior from Philadelphia, transfer out of Virginia Tech, sat out the first semester this season, missing the first 7 games. He's been averaging about 13 points off the bench. Substitutions for Ole Miss. Nick Williams returning, along with Derek Millinghouse. Just about 7 minutes gone by in the second half. White gets it into the corner. This time Williams coming up short. Williams back on it. Pulled down by Mills for LaSalle.
Holloway and Buckner both on the bench. So Brutus and Perez in. Not a lot of experience or firepower with those guys, but the turnover from LaSalle. They had an edge inside. Looked like they had an opening. Unfortunate for John Giannini.
And Mills tried to hit Brown on the bounce, but it was off the mark.
So where do you find your offense here? Got your 3 main guys on the bench right now, and Henderson, Buckner, and Holloway.
White off the double pop. Ladarius Snoop White, 6'6" sophomore, who has come on the last 5 or the 6 weeks.
Yeah, played a big role in that SEC tournament run, Marv, because remember, that was when Jarvis Summers went down with a concussion. The first game of the tournament for them against Missouri. So Summers sat out the final 2 games. And White, Millinghouse, Williams all filled in pretty well.
It is a 1-point game. 8 minutes gone by. Second half. Marv Albert, Steve Kerr, Craig Sager from Kansas City. Mills able to knock down the jumper.
Beautifully done against that extended zone. Mills just finding space behind that guard line.
The first field goal for Sam Mills. White. Tip missed by Perez. But a foul on LaSalle.
Watch the pass here from Ramon Galloway, finding his teammate Mills for the little pull-up jump shot, and LaSalle clinging to a 3-point lead.
Friday night, Kansas State. LaSalle came down to the final seconds. Angel Rodriguez of Kansas State with a chance to tie it. But the shot off, and that was it. See Coach Bruce Weber trying to call for timeout.
The official was in such a difficult position there because Weber called the timeout as Rodriguez was going into his shooting motion. Awarded him the timeout, but the shot had gone in. I mean, as an official, that would have been an impossible situation to be in. I thought he made the right call, just letting the play go.
Henderson hitting some non-three-pointers tonight.
And Ole Miss extending its defense, trying to change the look.
Double on right.
Starting unit back on the floor for Andy Kennedy's squad.
Peterson got it inside. So easy. Galloway has been hitting the three-point shot, able to get inside. He's now 7 for 11, 22 points.
But again, the dilemma for Andy Kennedy, when they go zone, they give up some of those passes on the interior, but if they switch to a man, the penetration is killing them.
Holloway, yes, and the foul. Murphy Holloway off the good pass.
Great feed from Snoop White. That's been there all game, Marvin. It's just a question of whether they can take advantage of it. They've had so many turnovers, particularly in the first half. But that time, White finds the angle and Holloway with the position.
Foul committed by Wright. Holloway only a 54% free throw shooter, 3 of 4 at the line tonight. Creighton and Duke about to get going on TBS. Holloway with the rebound and puts it home.
Emotion now, momentum starting to swing. You can feel it with the Ole Miss crowd behind their bench. The players starting to show a little emotion, and LaSalle needs a response.
Ole Miss taking the 1-point lead. How about Holloway? 11 points, 10 rebounds. As we approach the halfway mark of this second half. Shot clock out of 5. A LaSalle turnover. Henderson for 3. Timeout called by LaSalle. Marshall Henderson celebrating for himself and his team. 7 for 16 shooting, 4 from downtown. He has 18 points. The Rebels with 7 unanswered. Ole Miss by 4.
Insurance.
Back in Kansas City, the Rebels have turned the tide here in the second half, and this was the last bucket, the 3 for Marshall Henderson. And he is finding the range tonight. You see the reaction of the Ole Miss crowd. And you look at the numbers, most three-point attempts this season. Oh boy, look at that, 391. If they can go on and win this game, he's going to crack the 400 barrier. That's probably rarely, if ever, been done.
Steve, as well as you shot the 3, what was your high at Arizona from attempts this season? Can you recall?
I only had the line for 1 year because they added it just before my senior season. I think I probably took maybe 200, I'm guessing.
Oh, the block. From behind, it was Reginald Buckner. Ole Miss with its biggest lead of the night. LaSalle has led by as many as 7. That was late in the first half. 9.5 remaining.
They've got to continue to pound inside. LaSalle just not enough size down there. There's the double.
And a wide open Buckner, who is fouled hard.
A missed rotation. John Giannini yelling out at his team. But this was the block at the other end. Look at this play for Buckner, the all-time leading shot blocker in Mississippi history. And one of the all-time in SEC history. He was very close to a three-point play there, just couldn't put it down.
Galloway called for the foul, his third. Murphy Holloway played his first 2 seasons at Ole Miss, transferred to South Carolina, sat out the season as a transfer, then decided to transfer back to Ole Miss. Producer Scott Cockero, who is basically our lifeline, saying you had only 199 three-point attempts, not 200.
Okay.
So stop exaggerating.
Sorry, my fault. I was way off.
But how about the fact the guy takes over 500 shots?
Yeah. Almost 3 of every 4 shots for Henderson is a 3.
Duren with the runner.
Nice penetration from Duren. Again, Ole Miss staying in the zone. They just don't want to deal with the one-on-one penetration that happens against their man-to-man.
12 points for Duren. Henderson fires one. Last touched by LaSalle. So Henderson 7 for 16 from the field. He has 4 threes, 4 of 12. Now make it 4 of 13, including that last shot.
But I'm impressed, Marv, with the fight of LaSalle on the glass. I mean, it's only a 32-25 disadvantage for the Explorers in the rebounding department. I mean, it could be much worse than that. They're scrapping and clawing down there.
Henderson pounded and Galloway. Full pass from Henderson. Sets it up for Holloway. So he's doing other stuff here tonight. A couple of nice passes. Third assist for Marshall Henderson. 3 for Sam Mills.
Big shot for Mills. Again, his own defense a little late to recover. But the guys you really have to worry about, Galloway and Mills, are the main three-point shooters. You've got to locate if you're the Rebels.
Strong move. Going to the bucket.
Here's that pass you talked about, the penetration. Once you get in there, just throw it up. Throw it up in the air. There's Holloway putting it down, and the Rebels, emotional 1-point lead.
Back in Kansas City, a look at our game summary as Andy Kennedy talks to his Rebels. 1-point lead for Ole Miss. Both teams now at 47%, so they really picked it up in the second half. And 7 threes hammered down by the Explorers.
The big thing for the Rebels, Marv, is the turnovers. They had 9 at halftime, so they've only had 2 in the second half, and that's allowed them to get into their half-court offense and take advantage of the size down low. LaSalle, meanwhile, the penetration at the other end and the kickouts is just keeping them in the game.
Foul was called on Jarrell Wright, his third, putting Murphy Holloway at the line. Only a 54% free throw shooter, 3 of 6 here tonight, but he does have 13 points, 11 rebounds, 6 on the offensive glass. Down to 7.5 remaining. Second half. 2-point game. John Giannini staying with the combination of Galloway, Garland, and Duren. 4 guards and 1 big. Shot clock to 7. Garland hoisting a one-hander.
Big shot at the end of the shot clock against what was one of the better Ole Miss defensive possessions we've seen with that zone.
He's had a good game. 15 points for Garland. The game is tied for the 9th time. Henderson. Yes, and the foul. He was hacked, and he'll go to the line.
And that play was kind of broken off what they were trying to run. So they ended up in a high pick and roll situation. And then just a simple dribble handoff between Summers and Henderson. And you see there contact and the foul and the emotion from Henderson that just never stops.
He's a terrific foul shooter. That's his first attempt, but he's at 89% for the season. Who do you think Marshall Henderson says is his favorite NBA player? Any idea?
Who shoots every time he touches the ball?
That's a good point. That's good.
So I'm off on the right track.
Yes.
Who's maybe a little crazy?
Well, no, I think in this case, not necessarily so, but he.
What's the answer?
I will give it to you. The timeout is called. It is Jamal Crawford of the Clippers. But I was going to say, I would think it's Charles.
Which Charles?
Performance.
Well, after the games are over, Matt Weiner, Seth Davis, Steve Smith, and Pitt head coach Jamie Dixon have all the highlights and analysis on Inside March Madness presented by Buick on TBS. As I was saying, Duran takes to the rim. Nice move. Jamal Crawford is Marshall Henderson's favorite player. Jamal, who likes to fire away, but has shown better shot selectivity in recent years.
Makes perfect sense, though. Jamal would be the guy.
Here's Henderson off the mark this time. Now, Henderson is a big fan of Charles Barkley, but it's not Charles Barkley, who also had some nice words about Henderson earlier yesterday. But it is J.R. Smith, who I would think would be his guy.
That would make perfect sense, too. Any gunslinger Marshall is going to admire for sure. That goes without saying.
J.R., the former Denver Nugget, now with the New York Knicks. Henderson draws the double. And a foul. Did he step out? Yes, he did.
Take a look at the replay. Henderson, no question, right on the line. Official right on it. Henderson's capable of getting to the rim. He's more athletic than you think. He really elevates on that jump shot. And he can get up and hammer that ball down on a dunk if he gets in the lane.
Ole Miss by one. There's some pressure. Coming up on 5 minutes to play. Nice backdoor pass, but the block by Buckner.
Buckner just cleaning it up.
Williams gets inside. Nick Williams has played well. He has 10 points. Timeout called by the Explorers.
Well, defense to offense, that's what this game is so often about. The block from Buckner, and that leads to transition at the other end for Williams, and Ole Miss with a 3-point lead.
Kansas City, Marv Albert, Steve Kerr, Craig Sager, just under 5 minutes remaining in the second half. The Rebels with a 67-64 lead on the Explorers of LaSalle. LaSalle at one point led by as many as 7 late first half. Galloway kicks it back. Garland. Durham. A long three-point attempt. Got air.
Rebels doing a better job challenging shooters in this half. Galloway broke free so many times in that first half for wide open looks. But at least Henderson, Summers, White are getting out and challenging, getting a hand up, which makes a pretty big difference on a shooter.
Nice spin by Buckner. He went at right.
Yeah, just too big and strong. I mean, if they get the ball in that spot, Buckner or Holloway, there's virtually nothing LaSalle can do.
Reginald Buckner, 6'9" senior out of Memphis. Oh, it counts on the foul. Sam Mills with a potential 4-point play.
Mills and Galloway have all 8 of LaSalle's 3-pointers tonight, and that was just enormous. Every time it feels like Mississippi is starting to take control, LaSalle comes back with a big shot. You just love the grit and the toughness of this group from Philadelphia.
Nick Williams with his 3rd foul. And Mills not able to connect. It ends up as a 5-point play as Wright was able to take to the rim.
And keep in mind, Marv, it's kind of a random stat, but LaSalle in the last 5 minutes of games this year, any game that they've been tied or had the lead is undefeated, 22-0.
Series of crossovers. Beautiful move by Jarvis Summers. Rebels lead by 2.
And the reason that LaSalle is so good closing games, Marv, excellent foul shooters and great ball handlers. Rarely do they turn it over, although there's one from Galloway.
Couple players shaken up. One is Ramon Galloway.
Boy, LaSalle very fortunate. I think they got Summers on the foul, so LaSalle will retain possession here.
The Sweet 16 beginning on Thursday with the Infinity tip-off on TBS. 6 o'clock Eastern, followed by doubleheaders on CBS and TBS.
A trip to the Sweet 16 on the line right here between these two teams, and LaSalle somehow is just hanging around, Marv. Every time it feels like Ole Miss is ready to pull away, LaSalle makes a big play.
Last time LaSalle made it to the Sweet 16, 1995. For Ole Miss, a different story. It's their 7th appearance in the NCAA. First time since 2002 when they lost in the first round to UCLA. Duran from the wing, yes, and that is a 3.
Great ball movement, execution, precision coming out of that timeout. Let's see how Ole Miss responds.
LaSalle back up by 1. Henderson. It counts in the foul. Reginald Buckner will head to the line.
Look at this four-guard lineup for LaSalle. I mean, they just have no chance against the size and quickness of Buckner and Holloway. LaSalle just has to try to fight. It's the best it can on the boards, but if there's position for those 2 big guys, forget it.
Well, the only big on the floor for LaSalle, Jarrell Wright, who goes 6'8". He's playing with 3 personal fouls. Galloway can leap, and of course, he helps in terms of gang rebounding.
And Wright is 6'8" in the program only. He's really about 6'6".
Here's Duran. Someone got a piece. Rebels with the ball and a 1-point lead as we come up on 2 minutes to play. Summers. White. Played by Garland, and a foul.
Well, one bit of strategy possibly for LaSalle with both Buckner and Holloway. We know they're poor foul shooters. So if they get the ball down on the block, maybe you just wrap them up, force them to shoot free throws, because otherwise it just feels like it's going to be a dunk.
9th team foul committed by LaSalle. 1-1 for White, and Ole Miss just 2 of 7 at the line in the second half.
Mills and Garland both with 4 fouls, so they have to be careful. But anybody else on the court from this stage on, I would foul those 2 bigs for the Rebels.
1 or 2 for White. And a 2-point Ole Miss lead. Galloway using the screen.
And back to man for Ole Miss.
Shot clock to 10. Here is Garland on the move. And he drew the foul.
That's going to be the 7th team foul. So a 1-and-1 coming up here for Tyrone Garland, a 74% foul shooter on the season.
Foul committed by Summers. That is his 3rd. Garland 5 of 6 tonight. Minute and a half to go. Rebels trying to hold on to advance. The winner will face Wichita State Thursday in the West Regional. Rebels have a 2-point lead as this one winds down. A minute 23 remaining, and see LaSalle in jeopardy of going into the double bonus with the next foul.
Yeah, and Ole Miss with the ball. I think you go with Henderson here. Run him off a series of screens, either as a decoy or as a shooter. If he's the shooter, you have such a huge advantage on the offensive glass. Buckner or Holloway can go up and maybe get a putback. If you're LaSalle, long shot, long rebound, you want to go. Get out in transition, get something early before the Ole Miss defense can set up.
Henderson, the high man for the Rebels, 21 points, 8 for 20 from the field, including 4 from downtown. Galloway leads LaSalle with 24. The ball in the hands of Henderson, puts the move on, pops it out. Nice play. Summers cannot hit. And a foul is called. Rebounded by Duran, and he will head to the line.
Well, they got everything they wanted. Good defense from LaSalle, forcing the ball out of Henderson's hands, but the ball movement was great. Summers had a really good look at it, just couldn't get it to go. And now Duran, a 77% foul shooter, a couple big ones here to go for the tie.
1-1 for Duran, 4 of 5 at the line tonight. So LaSalle trying to follow up on their victory on Friday night as they got by Kansas State. Ole Miss with the win over the 5th seed Badgers of Wisconsin with that second half rally. The game tied at 74.
Same strategy here, Marv. I think you run Henderson off his usual maze of screens, and you hope you can take advantage of those bigs inside, either with the pass or on the glass.
Snoop White with some room and shoots. Woodall got glass. The side with the ball was a knocked out of bounds. The official was taken down. There were 4 LaSalle players chasing it down, along with Buckner of Ole Miss.
Boy, everybody just waiting for the official to make the call here. I'm not sure. It looked like he was pointing at the sideline, but maybe the ball hit it. We didn't really get a good look there. Back in Kansas City, let's take a look at that last call. It was awarded to Ole Miss, but take a look. Peterson touches it there, and watch his right foot. Ball's out of his hand. His right foot touches there, but he did not have control of the ball at that point. I think that should have gone to LaSalle, but you can't look at the replay.
Game tied at 74. Rebels in possession. Henderson way off. Henderson with the rebound. That is a shot clock violation. He's claiming he was fouled.
He was fouled, Marv. He went back up after the offensive putback, and he was raked across that left wrist. But maybe things have evened out here. Tough break for the Explorers on the out-of-bounds play, but Ole Miss gets a tough one right here.
They had the short shot clock because the ball was called out of bounds last touched by LaSalle.
Watch this though, right there you see his left bicep before the shot clock hits. Right there, looked like, I think it was Duran. Duran pretending like he didn't do anything, but the big thing is no shot clock. It's shot clock's off. So tie game, clearly you want to go for the last shot here. Try to run it down as much as you can and try to get a good look. But their game is penetrate and kick. So look for LaSalle once the game clock gets down to look for a penetration, maybe move the ball on, find an open shooter.
Can LaSalle continue this improbable run? They have an opportunity right here to advance. Shot clock, as you mentioned, turned off, down to 20 seconds. Game tied at 74.
Ole Miss in his zone, 2-3.
Down to 5. Here's Garland. Banks it. Yes! For the lead with 2.5 remaining. Here's Summers from mid-court. The Explorers of LaSalle have defeated the Rebels of Ole Miss. And this fable continues. The 13th seed in the West will advance. Next up, Wichita State, Thursday in the West Regional. Ramon Galloway, 6 for 10 from downtown. He had 24 points. Tyreek Duran, 19.